Okay guys, we got some irregular wear patterns. See right there where my finger's at? See where that ring scraped some metal and it walked up that cylinder wall? Each time the piston stroked, that debris got back underneath that ring and it just walked its way up till it could spit out the port. And it just put a little bit of damage on the cylinder wall, nothing serious. And on this side, see how the coloration changes right here? Coloration's changing all around that porthole. That's where the high rub areas are. So I'm just gonna run a hone through it, smooth everything off, get everything, you know, smooth looking. There was some plating damage to that cylinder right there at the top of that exhaust port above that valve. That was there a year ago. You know, I just don't want to spend $500 on another cylinder. I'm probably losing, you know, a quarter of a horsepower running it this way, but believe me, quarter of a horsepower ain't hurting me none. So I'm just trying to run it as inexpensively as I can, and it's been great for a year. So I'm gonna hone it out and run it another year. Yeah, it didn't really do much to alleviate those high spots. Those high spots are still all around that port. So I'm going to clean the jug and just kind of run it like it is now. Just going to clean it up real good. You saw me hone it enough to put, you know, some cross hatching in it. I'm just going to run it. I'm not going to take any more metal out of it. I'm going to put a brand new piston and ring in it and run it with that cross hatching. And heat cycle it gently 2 or 3 times to break it in nice and easy. And then that's it. I'll run it another year, and then I'll buy a cylinder or bore it and sleeve it. This is a boreable and re-sleevable cylinder. That might only cost $350 instead of $500. I don't know. Okay, Cycle 4 lifers. We are back in the dungeons at Coleman Power Sports in Falls Church. And look what we got today. We got a top end kit for this dirt bike. This is the Nomura kit. There's other brands we could have went with. Wiseco makes a forged piston kit. I like the Hyper Eutectic cast pistons. They fill up the space in the cylinder a little better without dragging and without causing any scoring. So what we got with this kit, what you need to? What you have?
Little grinder, I cut it off.
Grinder? Here you go. Try this.
Yeah.
See if this works. Right there.
Yeah.
Is that good? So what we got in this kit today is we got a Hyper Eutectic cast piston, which I prefer because they don't seize up as quickly as a forged piston does. We got a pin, we got some rings, and a gasket kit. It did not, and it came with circlips. It did not come with a new top end bearing, but that's okay. The other one was in good shape. So this is a nice little kit. I don't know what retail is on this kit. It's probably a little over $100, but there's a lot more value in these Nomura kits than some of the others because you get a full gasket kit. You get everything you need to do the job. There's nothing to razor blade. It's all clean. Let me give you a shot of that. Let me make sure you see that. See, when you get all that old gasket stuff in there, you know, if it's any thicker than that, you want to really clean that stuff off, because if you have air leaks through there, guys, it'll cause you to run lean and run hot and have seizures. Now when they're real super minor and superficial like that, it's also not good to take a blade and scrape it all over everything for no reason. So if there's just a little bit of residue and there's no height to it and I can't feel it with the edge of my fingernail, then I just put the gasket back on and keep rocking. But if you can feel it with your fingernail, then you got to clean it off and make it nice. The best thing to use to install these is the new pin. Take the new pin, push it through. And that'll give you something to push against when you're working that clip. Okay, see how it's perfectly concentric in there? And I can grab the ears of it and pry it out of the ears. You want that opening at the top or the bottom. You don't want it on the side. I've never seen it happen, honestly, but I've heard talk that a two-stroke could rev so fast if the opening is at 9 o'clock or 3 o'clock, it can pop the spring out. So you want the opening of that circlip at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I've never had it happen to me, but it could happen. You eating Qualan again? Or you grinding stuff?
I do.
You do?
I do.
You do, okay.
I do again.
You do again? I would never run this piston and rings again unless I had to. You know, it's easy for somebody that works in a shop to be critical and say, oh, don't ever use those parts again. Why don't you just throw them away? You're retarded. Get rid of them. Well, put it like this. If you got one race left in the season and you can't get parts because they're on back order, and that's all you got, and you either have that or you don't finish your season, after you've invested all the time, effort, pain, glory, tears, blood, and money that it took you to get there, you'll run whatever used parts you got to run. So you don't want to throw stuff away that's salvageable unless you got other better brand new parts ready to back it up. Got one clip on this side. Getting ready to put it in. Your arrow, see it says exhaust. I don't know if you can see that in the camera. If it doesn't have EX or IN, you just take for granted it's exhaust. If it has IN in an arrow, then it's intake. But this one says EX arrow, so that's definitely exhaust. And plus, you can tell on a two-stroke too the way these skirts are. You know anything about two-stroke engines and how they work, you understand that's a timed torque right there. Okay, here's my other new clip. You want to be real careful putting these in. Make sure you got a rag over that crankcase, because if this pin falls down inside that crankcase while you're trying to work on it, you got to get magnets and all kind of compressed air and other stuff to get it out. It's a big pain. So you just stuff the crankcase with a rag like this. And that way, if you make a mistake with the pin, with the clip, it's not going to go down inside. So you want to bend, you want to start low, put the top of the clip in, and then work the ears in. I'll show you. Okay, see that? It's in at the top, it's in at the bottom. The opening's at the bottom. We're good to go. Next step, we put the rings on. Okay, now look at these numbers on them, guys. See where they say top? And see on the other side where they don't. The writing almost always goes on top, especially if it uses the word top. See that? Top. Now the part number of those rings are identical. I don't know if the camera's focusing or picking that up. I'll try to give it some backdrop there, but 664 OGJ, same part numbers. Okay? A lot of times you get two different rings, and they'll tell you which one is the upper and lower ring, and then on which ring is the top and bottom of the ring. So you're concerned with the ring going this way or this way, and you're concerned with the ring going this way or this way. So in this case, they just got to go up, and they're both the same part number. And you want to line them up on these keyed pins back here. These pins are what keep the rings from rotating and snagging in a port. I'll show you that when we mount the cylinder. Start one ear, and after you start that side, then you just kind of work the ring around. It's a knack you get for doing it, but you start one ear and then you work it around. Just like that. And when that ring compresses, it's located on that pin. See that power valve moving in there? Nice and free, ready to go. Now you want to put the cylinder straight on. You don't want to have any angle when you do this, okay? You don't want to rotate the cylinder this way, because these ports, these holes in the piston, in the cylinder wall, will snag the back of these rings and you'll break a piston ring. So you take one hand and push your rings in like that. See how I'm doing that? And you kind of work the rings in. You keep them located, and then you go to this side. Sorry I couldn't film sliding that cylinder down over those rings. It's just too hard to do it all with one hand. I just couldn't do it. So see that imperfection in that case? I could TIG weld that up and then grind it flat and machine it flat, but why? It's so much easier just to Yama bond it and move on. But see how this rod is in place now? It's clipped in down there, it's clipped in up here. The spring naturally closes it on its own, and then at high RPM this governor spins fast enough that balls accelerate and ramp out with centrifugal force and force that up. So power valve's working good. So I'm gonna go ahead and Yama bond this part right here to keep it from leaking, and then put that gasket back on. Okay, no big deal, just putting goop over those imperfections. See how that Yama bond spooges up through there, squeezes out. I'm gonna go ahead and top coat it and let some more stick down and stick to it and dry on it. I know that's a kind of a shoddy way to do it, and it's shoddy looking, but okay, go ahead and get your TIG welder out and weld it all up and then machine it flat. You want to put that much time and effort into it, go ahead, it's your bike, do whatever you want. But for me, if it's just a couple little imperfections like that, that's an acceptable way to seal it. And it's not on the bottom anyway, it's on the top. How much leaking is it really going to do? And it's also not like a road race bike where you have to be anally perfect about not having any leaks whatsoever. And I got those finger snugged. You want to look up in the port, make sure that your piston rings are not going to snag. They don't even really come down into that port, do they? Yeah, that one does. See how that ring comes down into the port, but the ring grooves are off to one side of it. Everything's nice and smooth. There's no rings snagging on anything. Everything's nice and smooth, guys. No snagging. Everything's good to go. When you torque these down, guys, you don't want to just do them both on one side. You want to do one and then cross over, make an X, do the other side. Okay, put a little more pressure on the next one and then cross over, do the other side. You don't want to go hog wild on one of these studs and then go around in a circle. Like see how I did this one and pulled it pretty good and tight. You want to come over here and do this one now. You want to keep this thing moving flat. You want to keep it compressing flat. It helps the gaskets and it helps you seal. Because what happens when you leak air in a two-stroke, guys? You lean out and you blow up. So just make sure that you got a nice flat press on the gasket. Got the studs good and tight all the way around, and do them in a uniform level manner. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do these O-rings around the cylinder head. I'll show you how to use a little bit of grease. See that goopy goo grease there? I'm going to put a little bit of goopy goo grease around these O-rings. And we're gonna get them seated in these grooves. Okay. See that, guys? You want to make sure that, see how that one's popping up? See that? I'm going to push it back down and make it stick. You want to make sure those O-rings stay nice and flat when you torque that head on. Because if they pop up and get wonky and you put that head down on them like that, you'll pinch them. Those are the two brand new ones. I saved the old ones, again, for emergency spares. But, you know, you don't want to do that unless you have to. Where'd you guys put my head at? Where'd you set it down? Oh, the biggest part of a flat raider's life is finding all the parts and tools he set down. Okay, so let's look at this head. What do you see? You got a nice burn pattern, okay? You got a nice clean burn. That's old damage. I remember that from when I built this engine. That is not recent. That is old. So I'm disregarding that. Could I hog that out, smooth it off, deck the head, make more compression, get that cleaned up? Yeah, I could. But this thing makes more power than I need to ride with right now anyway. I'm not an expert level rider to where I need the power it's got. So I'm going to leave the head just like it is. Leave the squish band and the compression alone. And it's nice and clean, and got the O-rings where they need to be. We're just going to bolt that little mama jama down right there. And same thing, when you put your crush washers down and you put your acorn nuts on there, crisscross them like that. Don't go around in a circle, because by the time you get here you will have warped your head. So, you know, tack that one down, tack that one, then that one, that one, that one, that one, and then go up in stages until it's where it needs to be torqued at. Hey guys, in all honesty, from there it's pretty much done. You're just putting it back together the way you took it off. You know, put your head stave plates on there, put your exhaust springs and your exhaust in. Make sure you still have that little washer, you know, that I showed you on the teardown video. Don't lose that washer. You're going to go ahead and damage your cylinder head if you do. You don't want to butt that pipe right up against that jug. Make sure when you put this reed valve cage in, you use some Yama Bond or some kind of an air sealant. You don't want that leaking. See where that old gasket got a little bit damaged there? You don't want any air leaks there, guys. Any air leaks at all is devastating in that area of a two-stroke. Get the radiators on. Of course, you guys watch my radiator videos on how to properly bleed them and get all the air out. You go to my restoration videos for information on that. Get the back of the bike on, and at this point it's pretty much just going back together in reverse order you took it apart. So if you have any questions, send me a letter. I'll write you back. Sometimes it takes me a few days. I don't do side work, but I am gone from work a lot to go to the racetrack and do racing related stuff, so it takes me a few days to get back. But if you need help with something or have a question, I'll answer you. All right, God bless you. Wear your helmets. Ride safe.